Hey friends, Mike and Jess here.
And welcome to Regeneration Nation TV. Today we're reacting to a video titled Hillsborough, the story of football's darkest day.
This is probably about the lightest that the video is going to feel.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I think that we do a great job of, I don't know, bringing light to a dark room. At least she does. So we know a little bit about this.
We do.
Just doing UK reactions for the last, a little bit over a year now. You hear about it. You hear about it in comments and things like that. And me being friends with somebody who lives in Liverpool for a long time, I've heard about it, but don't really know probably near as much as we should or could about it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this in a weird way. I know it's a really dark story, but it's
Just to
good
get
to
a little
know
bit
about
more,
these things. Yeah.
History.
But this comes from the channel Full-Time Football. I'm hitting the subscribe button right now. Join me. Their links are in the description and the pinned comment. Go check them out. And yeah, let's get into this.
Let's do it.
On the 15th of April 1989, one of the most important games of the English domestic season was set to take place at Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield. An FA Cup semi-final between last season's beaten finalist Liverpool and Nottingham Forest would determine who would head to Wembley to play Everton in the final. Winning the FA Cup was arguably more important than winning the First Division League title at that time, so the importance of this game to both sets of supporters couldn't be understated. However, no one could have predicted what would have unfolded that day, and the impact those events would have on not just the supporters of Liverpool Football Club, but the footballing community as a whole. 766 people were injured, and ultimately 97 people were killed as a result of a human crush which occurred due to overcrowding, which remains the highest death toll in the history of British sport. In the years since the disaster, the truth about what happened that fateful day has come to light, and those who fell that afternoon can finally rest in peace. This is the story of football.
I saw 10 years and 94 years.
Yeah, there's just all different age. Like, as soon as it popped up, I saw 15, 19, 18, 24, 42, all these different. My goodness.
This one's going to be rough.
Football's darkest day. This is the story of Hillsborough. Built in 1899, Hillsborough Stadium, the home ground of Sheffield Wednesday, was selected to host the semi-final between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest. At that time in England, the majority of stadiums had high steel fences in place between the fans and the pitch, in an attempt to stem the prevalent pitch invasions and hooliganism which was rife in the English game. So much so that English teams had received a ban from competing in European competition following the Heysel Stadium disaster in 1985.
Oh wow.
At approximately 7 p.m. local time,
the fact that there is a stadium being used in 89? When did this happen?
I think it said 1989. Was it?
Yeah, 1989. And it was built in 1899? That's crazy. We don't have anything like that here.
In 1985. At approximately 7 p.m. local time, an hour before kickoff of the 1985 European Cup final between Liverpool and Juventus, the initial disturbance started. The boundary between the two was marked by temporary chain-link fencing and a central thinly policed no-man's land. Hooligans began to throw flares, bottles and stones across the divide and picked up rocks from the crumbling terraces beneath them. As kickoff approached, the throwing became more intense.
Oh my gosh.
Several groups of Liverpool hooligans broke through the boundary, overpowered the police and charged at the Juventus fans. The fans in the neutral section, who were mainly Italian and Belgian families with young children, began to flee towards the perimeter wall. The wall could not withstand the force of the fleeing Juve fans, and a lower portion collapsed. The blame for the incident was laid on the fans of Liverpool. On the 30th of May 1985, official UEFA observer Günther Schneider said, "Only the English fans were responsible. Of that there is no doubt." UEFA, the organiser of the event, the owners of Heysel Stadium, and the Belgian police were investigated for culpability. After an 18-month investigation, the dossier of leading Belgian judge Marina Kopp-Pieters was finally published. It concluded that blame should rest solely with the Liverpool fans. Jerry Clarkson, Deputy Chief of the London Fire Brigade, was sent by the British government to report on the condition of the stadium.
Whilst I emphatically say now that I do not condone any form of hooliganism whatsoever. The deaths, in my view, were attributable very, very largely to the appalling state of that stadium.
Clarkson discovered that the crush barriers were...
And just so far, it's like you don't want to make a full judgment, especially 3 minutes into a 22-minute video.
Yeah.
But just to give you guys where like my mindset is right now, like it's that guy just said it perfectly. Like if the stadium is in an appalling state, that's not good. Like you should not be inviting that many people there because you don't know what's going to happen. You cannot predict people.
Absolutely
and at
not.
this time, especially if something already happened in 85, like kind of, I don't know. There's a range of things that could happen, and this was in the range of things that could happen. So you should be prepared for that. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't make it right. It definitely doesn't make it right. But you can't. People could have ran that way in celebration. Mm-hmm. A bunch of people moved that direction in celebration. Like It doesn't even have to be like hooliganism and an attack or. It could have been a number of things of people moving in that direction that would have caused that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were unable to contain the weight of the crowd and had the reinforcement in the concrete exposed. The wall's piers had been built the wrong way around, and that there was a small building at the top of the terrace that contained long plastic tubing underneath. His report was never used in any inquiry for the disaster.
What?
Incidents such as these painted the English fans and football fans in general in an unfavourable light, thus giving certain areas of the media the ammunition they needed to spin the narrative against them should further incidents ever occur.
I could see that, man, with the way that the media is. It's tough, and like then that's all you hear about is just the headline, mm-hmm. and that would be rough to be a fan from there, mm-hmm. and you had nothing to do with it, and now you're labeled as just a terrible person from then on. I mean, I've even seen things in the comments still to where the reputation is still not great. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Hillsborough hosted 5 FA Cup semi-finals in the 1980s, despite occurrences of serious overcrowding taking place throughout those semi-final games. A report by Eastwood and Partners for a safety certificate for the stadium in 1978 concluded that although it failed to meet the recommendations of the Green Guide, a guide to safety at sports grounds, the consequences were minor. It emphasised the general situation at Hillsborough was satisfactory compared with most grounds. In 1981, a crush occurred at the Leppings Lane end in a game between Tottenham Hotspur and Wolverhampton Wanderers, resulting in 38 injuries. Police believe that no one would have been seriously injured and recommended the capacity be reduced going forth. Nonetheless, the incident prompted Sheffield Wednesday to change the layout of the Leppings Lane end, dividing the terrace into 3 separate pens in an effort to reduce sideways movement. Following these changes, the stadium's safety certificate was now invalid. However, it was never renewed and the capacity remained the same. 6 years later, in 1987, serious overcrowding was observed again, with the quarter-final and semi-final games of that season's FA Cup, as well as the following year in 1988. Police presence at that 1988 semi-final, coincidentally between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest, had been overseen by Chief Superintendent Brian Mole, who had supervised a number of deployments at stadiums in the past. However, following an incident that occurred in October 1988, Mole was transferred out of the South Yorkshire Division and was replaced by Chief Superintendent David Duckenfield. The first planning meeting for the 1989 FA Cup semi-final was attended by Duckenfield and not Mole, who could still have been assigned to the game despite his transfer. This would not be the case, leaving Duckenfield in charge of planning, despite having never commanded a sellout football match before and had very little, if any, experience or training in how to do so.
Already a bunch of things that are against the whole thing, as like everything that he's already lined out right there is like a checklist of all these things. Like it expired, like the check on it had expired, and they didn't even get anything to renew it. There's nobody checking on these things. They're not checking the overcrowding. This guy is inexperienced. Like, not saying
this
that
is about to lay it all out.
Just like,
it's not just what those headlines. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a part of it. Yes, those fans shouldn't have been doing that, but it goes a lot deeper than that, mm-hmm. and even if they did do that, that's no excuse. Like, nobody deserves to die, and I'm sure not all of those people were even the ones rushing over. It's just you can't. But even now, today, you can't just read the headline and move on and form your opinion on that. You got to go a bit deeper. If you're even going to form an opinion on it, you got to go a bit deeper.
As is common at domestic football matches in England, both sets of fans would be segregated. Nottingham Forest fans were allocated the south and east stands, holding a capacity of 29,800, which could be accessed by roughly 60 turnstiles along two sides of the ground. The Liverpool fans, however, were assigned to the north and west stands, the west stand being the Leppings Lane end, holding 24,256 fans, which could be accessed by 23 turnstiles from a narrow concourse. Despite there being a larger number of Liverpool fans, the Forest supporters were given the larger area in an attempt to avoid rival fans crossing paths. As a result, turnstiles that would normally have been used to enter the north stand were now off limits, forcing all Liverpool fans to converge on a single entrance at the Leppings Lane end. Between 2:30 and 2:40 PM, there was a build-up of supporters outside the turnstiles facing the Leppings Lane, eager to enter the stadium before the game began. At 2:46 PM, the BBC's football commentator John Motson had already noticed the uneven distribution of people in the Leppings Lane pens.
Well, you look at the Liverpool end to the right of the goal. There's hardly anybody on those steps. No, to the right of there, that's it. Look down there. Unless that's some sort of segregation for what they call neutrals who've got their tickets from Sheffield Wednesday. That could be it, I suppose.
People presenting tickets at the wrong turnstiles and those who had been refused entry could not leave because of the crowd behind them and remained as an obstruction. Fans outside could hear cheering as the teams came out onto the pitch 10 minutes before the match started and as the match kicked off, but could not gain entrance. A police constable radio control requesting that the game be delayed, as it had been 2 years before, to ensure the safe passage of supporters into the ground. The request to delay the start of the match by 20 minutes was declined. With an estimated 5,000 fans trying to enter through the turnstiles and increasing safety concerns, the police, to avoid any fatalities outside of the ground, opened a large exit gate that ordinarily permitted the free flow of supporters departing the stadium. 2 further gates were subsequently opened to relieve the pressure. After an initial rush, thousands of supporters entered the stadium. Hundreds of people were pressed against one another and the fencing by the weight of the crowd behind them. Fans were still streaming in from the rear entrance tunnel as the match began.
Dude, look at them all running to funnel in. That stresses me out so bad.
It's so chaotic as is. Like, the fact that you had so little ways for them to get in and just kind of funnel through. Like, I know looking back, obviously, they'll be like, well, we could have done this, obviously. But they're trying to make it safe for everyone, which is so ironic because they didn't in the end, you know? Like, I couldn't imagine just looking over
you
this.
You need
and
somebody
being a part of it.
up top
like
to,
an aerial
to come up
view.
with a good,
yeah,
plan of how you're going to tackle all of this. Plan A, B, and C, because, man, I just don't know. I'm glad that I'm not in charge of running an event like this. This is a
it's
nightmare.
a lot of responsibility.
First attempted to stop fans from spilling out of the pens, some believing this to be a pitch invasion. At approximately 3:04 PM, a surge caused one of the metal crush barriers to give way. South Yorkshire Police Superintendent Greenwood realised the situation and ran onto the field to gain referee Ray Lewis's attention. Lewis stopped the match as fans climbed the fence in an effort to escape the crush and went onto the running track surrounding the pitch. By this time, a small gate in the fence had been forced open and some fans escaped via this route, as others continued to climb over the fencing. Other fans were pulled to safety by fans in the west stand above the Leppings Lane terrace. The intensity of the crush broke more crush barriers on the terraces. Holes in the perimeter fencing were made by fans desperately attempting to rescue others.
Gosh.
The crowd in the Leppings Lane stand spilled onto the pitch where many injured and traumatised fans who had climbed to safety congregated. Those still trapped in the pens were packed so tightly that many victims died of compressive asphyxia while standing.
Gosh.
Meanwhile, on the pitch, police, stewards and members of St John's Ambulance Service were overwhelmed. Many fans assisted the injured, several attempted CPR, and others tore down advertising hoardings to use as stretchers. Chief Superintendent John Nesbitt of South Yorkshire Police later briefed that leaving the rescue to the fans was a deliberate strategy, and is quoted as saying, "We let the fans help so that they would not take out their frustration on the police." As fans who were able to escape the nightmare made their way out of Hillsborough, the death toll inside continued to rise. A total of 42 ambulances arrived at the stadium. Of this number, 2 managed to make their way onto the pitch by their own accord, while a third ambulance made its way onto the pitch at the direction of Officer Douglas Hopkins, who felt its visibility might allay crowd concerns and make them think something was being done. The remaining 39 ambulances were collectively...
I mean, how does he know that that's what his intention was? I mean, that's... I don't know. It could totally be true, but that part right there, it's... Is there documentation of that's the reason why he was making his face public? Like, I don't know. Like trying to... I don't know if that... I would not be in the mind... I don't know, maybe I'm different, but my mind would not go there in the middle of this when all of that's still going on and the death toll is continuing to rise and you're in the middle of it. My mind wouldn't be like, what's the PR look on this?
If you are in that kind of field, though, you have to constantly be watching yourself, and you're in the public eye. People look to you for safety. They look to you to be the leader, like the person that knows what to do. So
the last thing I want in charge is somebody who in this... Think about PR later that night when things start to, that is part of your job. But in this moment right here, that is the last thing you need to be worrying about. Mm-hmm. The very last thing.
The direction of Officer Douglas Hopkins, who felt its visibility might allay crowd concerns and make them think something was being done. The remaining 39 ambulances... I
mean, I get maybe if there is people outside of the stadium and you're trying to keep them at bay. It's like, hey, I'm here. I do get that. So maybe
were collectively able to transport approximately 149 people to either Northern General Hospital, Royal Hallamshire Hospital, or Barnsley Hospital for treatment.
Dude, seeing all those people,
from seeing all those people up against that's heartbreaking. Just seeing the vision of it, like you can hear it all day how people suffered and they were asphyxiated from staying in that position, and then just seeing them. That would be so terrifying, so heartbreaking to know that. You
can't do anything. You're on the other side trying to help them, and you literally can't.
You can't
get that person that's crushed right there.
My goodness.
Well, I think the biggest irony is that the sun is shining now and Hillsborough's quiet, and over there to the left, the green Yorkshire Hills. And who would have known that 74 people would die here in the stadium this afternoon? And 2 other items I've just think of, sitting here now in the sunshine. 2 items. One, that still reminds me of Heysel. The gymnasium here at Hillsborough is being used as a mortuary for the dead. And at this moment, stewards, just as they did at the Heysel Stadium, have got cartons and little paper bags, and they're gathering up the personal belongings of the spectators, some of whom died, some of whom are now seriously injured in nearby hospitals. And there are red and white scarves of Liverpool, and red and white bobble hats of Liverpool, and red and white rosettes of Liverpool, and nothing else out there on the enclosure where all the deaths occurred. And the sun shines now.
After the disaster, Lord Justice Taylor was appointed to conduct an inquiry into the events. The Taylor inquiry sat for a total of 31 days between the 15th of May and the 29th of June 1989 and published 2 reports. An interim report on the 1st of August 1989, which laid out the events of the day and immediate conclusions, and a final report on the 19th of January 1990, which outlined general recommendations on football ground safety. Taylor concluded that policing on the day broke down, and the main reason for the disaster was the failure of police control. Attention was focused on the decision to open the secondary gates. Moreover, the kick-off should have been delayed, as had been done at other venues and matches. Taylor found there was no provision for controlling the entry of spectators into the turnstile area. He dismissed the claim by senior police that they had no reason to anticipate problems, since congestion had occurred at both the 1987 and 1988 semi-finals. He said that the operational order and police tactics on the day failed to provide for controlling a concentrated arrival of large numbers should that occur in a short period. That it might so occur was foreseeable. The failure by the police to give the order to direct fans to empty areas of the stadium was described by Taylor as a blunder of the first magnitude.
Yeah.
Sheffield Wednesday was also criticised for the inadequate number of turnstiles at the Leppings Lane end and the poor quality of the crush barriers on the terraces. As a result of the Taylor report, Most clubs refurbished or rebuilt stadiums, partly and in some cases completely, while others built new stadiums at different locations.
Wow.
Initial media...
Man, it sucks that something like this had to happen, but imagine how many things it might have prevented them renovating and building new stadiums all over the place because of this.
Yeah.
It's really sad that it had to happen like that, but man, it's just these sporting events, all of these events and concerts, everything like that. It's such a responsibility you're taking on. You're all of these lives you're taking into your hands, just trying to entertain people. And it's such a big responsibility, and like you really don't know as the spectator. You're going there, and we just assume that like this is under control. These things happen all the time, like sporting events, concerts, big live things with big groups of people. They happen all the time. These people know what they're doing, and you just don't know.
There's a lot of trust that you're putting in a lot of people that you don't know, you've never met before, or you don't know if they're checking all the boxes or if they're just like, it's just like going to, like, I think about that when we go to the carnival, like when they do the carnivals that come in, and you're like, you're trusting all these people who have built these things overnight, and you're trusting that these things are all put together and in ship-shape order, but anything could happen. Like, it's terrifying. If they're not,
things happen all the time. But the amount of time, the amount of sporting events and live events and things like that go on and nothing does happen, and they go off without a hitch, and everybody comes, has a great time, goes home safe with their family. It's spectacular that people can actually put on events that are that safe and that do run that well. Like, I would never trust myself to put on an event to hold this many people. And as we say that, it's like we've talked about coming and visiting in the UK. And I heard, I don't remember their name or anything, but I heard a few, this was a while ago, but there was an influencer that had a big meet and greet. They didn't plan it properly. They canceled it at the last minute. And there was just all of these people outside having heat exhaustion. And they were in line for hours and hours and hours. So many more people showed up than I guess the influencer was expecting. And it was just a huge disaster.
Oh gosh.
And that happens with a lot of influencers. It's a big thing that's happened over the last few years. I remember there was one who's like, "Hey, we're gonna be in New York," and then all of a sudden the streets were like flooded. It might not even have been New York, but the streets were like flooded, cop cars getting destroyed and stuff. And it's like, even big sporting events, like a big club like this, and it's a stadium and the police are there, they don't even always get it right.
Yeah, because the amount of people that were in between those police officers on horses was incredible. Like, if they all decide to turn on you, you will not be able to do anything. There's like one cop on a horse around it looked like 200 people per one cop, or like at least 100 people per one cop. Like, if they decide that they're not going to follow what you're saying and it could go south from there, like, that's terrifying. Like, you need to have more reinforcements
There's so many
or something.
things that
I don't
could
know.
go wrong.
Yeah, that was scary.
Oh, whoops. Yeah.
Others built new stadiums at different locations. Initial media coverage began to shift the blame onto the behaviour of the Liverpool fans at the stadium, making it a public order issue.
And I'm saying to you that if police officers had been in there, when this mob surged through, the police officers would have been trampled to death underneath it. You just can't handle them. And the vast majority of that lot had been drinking, the ones that were arriving late, and they will not be told where to go. They won't do anything you try to do. And what can you do?
So are you saying the fans are to blame then?
The police certainly aren't to blame. Because if the fans would do what the police are asking them to do, there wouldn't be any problem, because people would be orderly.
On the 19th of April,
I mean, he's definitely got a point, but that kind of ignores all the other things that went into that. So I don't know. He's definitely got a point, but it's not. It's lacking a lot of the context surrounding it.
It's not enough point for the media to just point out that they're to blame for this whole thing and not point out the other aspects.
You know the fans are going to be like that, so set up some infrastructure to compensate.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be any problem, because people would be orderly.
On the 19th of April, 4 days after the disaster, Kelvin Mackenzie, editor of The Sun, ordered "The Truth" as the front page headline, followed by 3 sub-headlines. Some fans picked pockets of victims, some fans urinated on brave cops, and some fans beat up PC giving kiss of life. The story accompanying the Sun headlines claimed drunken Liverpool fans had viciously attacked rescue workers as they tried to revive victims, and police officers, firemen and ambulance crew were punched, kicked and urinated upon. Widespread boycotts of the newspaper throughout Merseyside followed immediately and continue to this day. Lord Taylor concluded in his report that the behaviour of Liverpool fans, including accusations of drunkenness, were secondary factors, and said that most fans were not drunk, nor even the worse for drink. He concluded that this formed an exacerbating factor, but the police, seeking to rationalise their loss of control, overestimated the element of drunkenness in the crowd. The report dismissed the theory put forward by South Yorkshire Police that fans attempting to gain entry without tickets or with forged tickets were contributing factors.
Man, it's unfortunate that it just gets like, oh, it's the fans, oh, it's the police. It's like, it's not.
The honorable, I don't know who is presiding or how you say his title, but the person who's proceeding over these charges and like the one that's delegating who, what, and the charges and like going over the reports and stuff seems like he knows what the truth is. Like it seems like he's got it like where, this is happening, but this is over exaggerated kind of thing. So that makes me, I don't know.
Yeah.
Inquests into the deaths were opened and adjourned immediately after the disaster. Resumed on 19th November 1990, they proved to be controversial. South Yorkshire coroner Dr. Stephen Popper limited the main inquest to events up to 3:15 p.m. on the day of the disaster, 9 minutes after the match was halted and the crowd spilled onto the pitch. Popper said that this was because victims were either dead or brain dead by 3:15 p.m. The decision angered the families, many of whom felt the inquest were unable to consider the response of the police and other emergency services after that time. The inquest returned verdicts of accidental death on 26th of March 1991, much to the dismay of the bereaved families, who had been hoping for a verdict of unlawful killing or an open verdict, and for manslaughter charges to be brought against the officers who had been present for the disaster. Popper's decision regarding the cut-off time was subsequently endorsed by the Divisional Court, who considered it to have been justified in the light of the medical evidence available to him. Relatives later failed to have the inquest reopened to allow more scrutiny of police actions and closer examination of the circumstances of individual cases.
It makes one wonder whether it's justice that they do want. You see, they've had justice. It's been through the full judicial process. But because it hasn't come out the way they would like, then they don't feel they've had justice. And really, I think most people will take that for what it is.
In May 1997, when the Labour Party came into office, Home Secretary Jack Straw ordered an investigation. It was performed by Lord Justice Stuart Smith. The terms of reference in his inquiry were limited to, quote, new evidence, that is, evidence which was not available or was not presented to the previous inquiries, courts or authorities. Therefore, evidence such as witness statements which had been altered were classed as inadmissible. When he presented his report in February 1998, he concluded that there was insufficient evidence for a new inquiry into the disaster. Announcing the report to the House of Commons, Home Secretary Jack Straw backed Stuart Smith's findings and said that, "I do not believe that a further inquiry could or would uncover significant new evidence or provide any relief for the distress of those who have been bereaved." However, the determination by Stuart Smith was heavily criticised by the Justice Minister Lord Falconer, who stated, "I am absolutely sure that Sir Murray Stuart Smith came to the completely wrong conclusion. It made the families in the Hillsborough disaster feel after one establishment cover-up, here was another."
Could you imagine going through this for 10 years?
No, I could not.
Like just going in and out and just wanting that
You
justice.
have to relive it.
Nothing is going to bring them back, but yeah, just to have to relive it and not have the, I don't know. I would never wish this on anyone, or I would never want to go through something like this, because it's just, that is so hard to keep going through it day after day and nothing being done.
Yeah.
In February 2000, a private prosecution was brought against Chief Superintendent David Duckenfield and another officer, Bernard Murray. The prosecution argued that the crush was foreseeable, hence the defendants were grossly negligent. Prosecutor Alan Jones told the court that Duckenfield gave the order to open the gates so that hundreds of fans could be herded onto the already crowded terraces at the stadium. Jones stated that minutes after the disaster, Duckenfield deceitfully and dishonestly told senior FA officials that supporters had forced the gate open. Duckenfield admitted that he had lied in certain statements regarding the causes of the disaster. The prosecution ended on the 24th of July 2000, when Murray was acquitted and the jury was unable to reach a verdict in the case of Duckenfield. In the years after the disaster, the Hillsborough Family Support Group had campaigned for the release of all relevant documents into the public domain. After the disaster's 20th anniversary in April 2009, supported by the Culture Secretary Andy Burnham and Minister of State for Justice Maria Eagle, the government asked the Home Office and Department of Culture, Media and Sport to investigate the best way for this information to be made public. On the 12th of September 2012, the Hillsborough Independent Panel concluded that no Liverpool fans were responsible in any way for the disaster and that its main cause was a lack of police control.
In 2012? Dude, some of your loved ones who fought for you all that time have also passed away. You know, not getting resolution. Dang, that's crazy that it took so long. And that people, it's amazing that people were still fighting that long later. Like we haven't forgot, you know. The 395-page report delivered 153 key findings. The disclosed documents show that multiple factors were responsible for the deaths of 96 victims of the Hillsborough tragedy, and that the fans were not the cause of the disaster.
Rightfully so. After watching everything that has gone on in this documentary, that would be the last place that I would look for the blame. Like, they're coming to see something and they're paying to go into a venue to see something that you should already have plans laid out. Like, you
shouldn't be going there looking to attack other people.
No, definitely not. But
what they did was definitely wrong.
But I'm just
definitely a criminal act that you should be arrested for.
Right.
Not something you should be killed for and condemned for, and like everybody that's a fan from that city viewed as a terrible person or anything. There's yeah.
The findings concluded that 164 witness statements had been altered. Of those statements, 116 were amended to remove or change negative comments about South Yorkshire Police. South Yorkshire Police had themselves performed blood alcohol tests on the victims, some of them children, and ran computer checks on the National Police database in an attempt to impugn their reputation. Despite the idea that alcohol being a major contributing factor had been dismissed by the Taylor report.
Wow.
That is crazy.
Are you kidding me?
After publication, the Hillsborough Family Support Group called for new inquests for the victims. They also called for the prosecutions of unlawful killing, corporate manslaughter, and provision of the course of justice in respect of the actions of police both in causing the disaster and covering up their actions.
Absolutely.
Following an application on the 19th of December 2012 by the Attorney General Dominic Grieve, the High Court quashed the verdicts in the original inquests and ordered fresh inquests to be held. The inquest hearing started on Monday, the 31st of March 2014. On the 6th of April 2016, the 9 jurors were sent out to consider their verdicts, over 2 years after the hearings had begun. These were formally given to the inquest at 11 o'clock on the 26th of April 2016. The jury returned a verdict of unlawful killing in respect of all 96 victims by a majority verdict of 7-2.
They had to wait.
The families of those who had been killed that day could finally rest easy, safe in the knowledge that they had won in their fight for justice, and the truth about what happened that day in 1989 had now come to light. The fact that having the fans who were in attendance that day exonerated from any and all blame in the cause of the disaster was what truly mattered to those who had campaigned tirelessly for the truth after 27 long years. Never again would the survivors of Hillsborough have to defend themselves against the narrative that they were the ones that caused the disaster that day. Never again would the names of the 97 people who died have the word accidental associated with their memory. Never again could those responsible hide from the reality of what they had done. It may have taken nearly 3 decades for the truth to come out, but through sheer persistence, determination, and love for their fallen friends and relatives, the 97 could now rest, knowing that in the last 27 years, not once had they ever walked alone.
That was very well presented.
Oh. That was an incredible video, man.
Mm-hmm. Just, I like the way he told the story, the build up. I think that is incredible to keep that fight up for that long, because I don't know how much my heart could take for almost 30 years not having justice for your loved ones. And I'm still like dumbfounded that the fact that those botched police reports were sitting there for almost 30 years and nobody said anything about them. Like, the people that tried to, like, we're all human, we make mistakes, but the decisions that you made were part of 97 people dying. 97 people who belong to people that love them, and they didn't get answers for 30 years because you wanted to cover it up and lie about it because of the mistakes that you made instead of owning up to it. I feel like that's where humanity is lost sometimes, when they get political, they're selfish. First of all, that's such a selfish decision to make. There's 97 people that have lost their lives, but you can't suck it up a little bit to tell the truth and, take your punishment. You know what I mean? Like, that's just crazy that they had to wait almost 30 years just to have justice.
I think it's a good thing that there were so many families affected, because they rallied together, and I'm sure that they kept them going through the years, because there's situations like this that happen to one person, one family, and they are in the fight alone.
Yep.
For decades, and I'm sure it's harder to keep going, you know what I mean? Having all those families with you, all those people walking out, like, they were all in that together, man. And they had so much support from, people all around the world that found out about this. That were seeing the truth, Making it public was the best thing that they could have done, man. Like, that's incredible. That is just, wow. 30 years. I really did. There's so much stuff that we didn't know about this, and that is like a big one to me. Like, I did not know that it took that long to get resolution from it.
And I feel absolutely like if we would go back and watch the reaction to the song that was sang by all the fans in the stadium, I think it would hit like a knife in my heart right now, because just the way that the UK as a whole just rallies, like everything that we've seen, they are always just fighting for each other. It's always a closeness every time I see something like that. Like, whether you're talking about war, whether you're talking about sports, whether you're talking about, things that they're going through at the moment. I've never seen somebody, like a whole bunch of people rally together for the same thing, and like, there's not that connectivity, I feel like, here in America. There is in certain spots. Well, if you remember
that You Never Walk Alone video was actually in Australia, so like that's even more powerful. So many more people than you realize.
You're right.
Crazy.
True. That is so true. That just makes it even more amazing that people were seeing the truth from everywhere, and then they knew how special that moment was. Like, that's incredible.
It is. I just feel privileged to, be invited into this world and be shown these things and be educated on these things. It's important stuff. This is something that's, it happened 2 years after we were born. It's been going on our entire lives, and I never knew about it. And there's just most of my life, there have been people out there just fighting for those that they love. So they weren't alone, and they didn't get remembered incorrectly. It pisses me off thinking about some of the people out there that were defending this stuff and like fighting it, and they didn't know what they were defending, but they passed away before this came out. So they went to their grave thinking that they were justified, thinking that they were in the right that whole time. You can't let losers and liars write history or rewrite history. You have to fight for the truth and
bring the darkness to the light. I love that.
You can't let these losers and liars and thieves write history. You have to fight, or else they will. And then people 100 years from now, they won't know what really happened. So, I don't know. If you see something that needs to be fought for, fight for it. It's worth it.
Yep.
But anyways, that's it. That's the reaction. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. And those 97 people and the families and everything that were infected,
I love that
video.
You
never walked alone, and you never will walk alone.
They never will. And knowing that people who are watching that video for the first time get to see all the names of the people that, they're never going to be forgotten. And the fact that their names were scrolled on the list and you could see them.
I'm sure there's something in a physical place at this point. I would hope so. Or there should be in the works. But that was beautiful. The presenter in this video really did do a great job.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, y'all. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye, friends.
Peace.
I'm not scared of your love, so show